Miami Heat have been one of the NBA's hottest teams the last few months, winning 23 of their last 28 games to move into the Eastern Conference playoff picture. On Friday night at home against the surging Minnesota Timberwolves, the Heat got a tough 123-105 win, but along the way lost starting shooting guard Dion Waiters to a sprained ankle. But the Heat comeback story after the disastrous start to the season is a genuine fairy tale. We're here on the home stretch of the NBA season, and we have our panel here, Torrey, Mark, and Gal. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you.
How has the Heat been able to have such a remarkable turnaround, at one point being 19 games under 500 to now sitting in the playoff picture in the East?
I think it was just a matter of making a statement, just saying that, you know, we might not be the best group on paper, but we really want to show what we can do, and that we're a great group of guys and we can play well together.
Yeah, I mean, to say that these guys don't belong together, I'm pretty sure more than half of these guys spend more than enough time in the D-League and to be brought up this far. I mean, you have to remember, before they started their streak in January, they were sitting tied for last with the Magic at the bottom of the conference, potentially looking at getting either Lonzo Ball or Markelle Fultz in the draft. Now they're sitting looking to potentially beat the Cavs in the playoffs.
Right.
And the thing is, they've had a couple of good runs with them, so it's a bit shaky here.
Yeah, I think this is a very great story for the league, for a team to come all the way from the bottom and just make their way up to the top, to the playoffs. And they're looking to fight Cleveland. If the playoffs were to end today, they'd be in a match with Cleveland, and that would be a great thing to see.
No, they gave Hassan Whiteside the big money last offseason. There were a lot of concerns about him, his attitude, his behavior. How have they been able to keep him in check, keep him happy, keep his numbers up, and he's playing well?
Well, before he had great mentors like Dwayne Wade and Udonis Haslem, I think that really helped build his character moving forward, and I think it just kind of stayed with him, because even when they were there, you can kind of see his fire kind of dying down in terms of getting himself into trouble.
Right. I think it's actually you have to give a lot of credit to Spoelstra. I mean, I think we've talked about this before, saying this is probably his greatest coaching performance since the Big Three, but this is probably bigger considering how far less this team is rated than that. And I think the reality is he needs to win the Coach of the Year award to do what he's done in such a short period of time, and to keep up players like Hassan Whiteside, who was being looked at potentially as an all-star. I think it has a lot to do with Spoelstra, of being able to tell them. It's kind of like Popovich in his system. It's a bunch of guys who are not stars, but he makes them feel like they're the stars.
Well, that goes to the culture and the style of the Heat organization as a whole, right?
Yeah, right. It does. And I personally love this story. I'm a fan of the Knicks, but right now I'm rooting for the Heat, just to see them how they crawled all the way from the bottom of the Eastern Conference to the top. Come playoff time, I'll be rooting for the Heat.
Bandwagon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So you mentioned it earlier. Cleveland, Miami, number 8 versus number 1. Miami could also go up as high as number 6.
Right.
What are the possibilities in the first round for the Heat? Will this be a first round and done team?
I honestly don't think so. Primarily because the Cavaliers have had such bad problems being consistent, and they're constantly getting injured. A couple games ago, Kyrie pulled out of the game with some tightness in his knee. Shumpert's also been saying he's been feeling not a bit bruised up. So this team is very inconsistent physically, and I think that could be a very big problem going into the playoffs, because that's when you need all your star players.
Yeah, honestly, the way the Heat's been playing, if the Cavs are not fully on guard, the Heat could actually overtake them, and it would be a very great thing to see.
Well, you have James Johnson, who is playing well. Dion Waiters' ankle sprain, he's expected to be back. Right. But Goran Dragic is a name that we're not hearing a lot in the national conversation in the NBA. Where does he stand right now, as of today, best point guards in the league?
I think he sits in the second tier, because you have to remember, a couple years ago he was third-team All-NBA in Phoenix, and then he moved to Miami, and he got the big money, and people were expecting such great things, but he had to play with another ball-dominant guard in Wade, and he was moved to a sharpshooting position from the outside, which is nowhere near what his talents lie in. So I think because of how his season went downhill there, people have kind of knocked him back. But I think he definitely, with his talent and the way he plays, although he might be a bit too one-dimensional going to the left, I think he definitely sits on that second tier of best guards in the NBA.
Yeah, I could see him as, honestly, he'd be one of my top 15 point guards in the NBA. He's been playing really well. He stepped up his game. There's a lot of really good point guards in the NBA, but I think he's...
Right, he's probably one of the most improved along with George Hill from Utah.
Definitely one of the most improved.
Okay. Let's shift the conversation a little bit. We're on the home stretch now to the final of the regular season, the end of the regular season. We're about a month away. Usually at that time, we start talking about individual awards. One of the most prestigious awards, obviously, is the MVP. If the season were to end, say, today or tomorrow, Torre, who will be your MVP and why?
James Harden's, hand down.
No.
Yeah.
How can you say that?
Let's get to the why part of that first.
Because James Harden is the most important player to his team, and they're sitting at third in the Western Conference, which is the hardest conference much harder than the East for sure.
Although I will agree, the East is not as difficult as the West, but you can't say that LeBron James is not as important to the Cavaliers, if not more important to the Cavaliers, than Harden is to the Rockets. Because
he's not.
Because LeBron James he's both the defensive leader and the offensive leader. As well, he doesn't need the ball to succeed. He only has about 28% usage, whereas Harden sits 34 to 36. He doesn't need the ball to succeed. He can go and set up other teammates.
That's true, but that just shows you how much more the Rockets depend on James Harden than Cleveland Cavaliers, because they use him so much. They use him way more than he has a 34% usage rating, whereas LeBron James only has a 27%.
Right, but the difference that system is built for James Harden, whereas the Cavaliers system is not built around LeBron.
That's precisely why he's more important for the Rockets than Cleveland Cavaliers. It's built around him, so if he's gone, they won't be able to function.
Yes, they can. Their system is built around three-point shooting. All you need is one guy to drive and you pop it back out. I will agree. He's done a great job reinventing his game.
Exactly. But who else is going to drive to set him up? He's the best playmaker on the team, and he's the biggest.
Eric Gordon does a fantastic job. Lou Williams can do the same.
If he goes in, he's the biggest threat on the team. They have to double team him, and he can kick it out. Not only that, but he's also a shooter. And like Kyle Korver said, shooters open up more shooters. So he's a threat all around.
It's important to note here that James Harden is on track to break an NBA record for the most turnovers in history.
I think that more has to do with the fact that he's had to shift positions, though. The fact that he's had to go from a shooting guard, a ball-dominant shooting guard, the one that shoots rather than passes. So I think it really does. I think that pushes his elevation in the MVP stock. But I push LeBron forward because LeBron is so important. He's a defensive leader and the offensive leader. He's important on both sides of the ball. Whereas James Harden, you take him away from that defensive side, and you're still completely fine with the Rockets.
Right, but the thing with James Harden, even though he has a massive amount of turnovers on his end, he still manages to have a higher PER than LeBron James, where he stands as 27 PER ratio.
You're gonna have a higher PER when you have the ball. You're gonna have the higher PER when you have the ball.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, even though he makes so many mistakes, he's also able to use his good abilities to make up for that.
Right, but that's the better thing. LeBron James doesn't make nearly as many mistakes. Right. And he doesn't need the ball as much.
That's how phenomenal James Harden is, that even though he's making those as much mistakes.
Right, but he needs more chances.
He's still making overall positive impact on the team.
He needs more chances, whereas LeBron doesn't need as many chances, and he's just as successful.
Who else is in this conversation?
Obviously, you have the triple-double man, Russell Westbrook. You have guys like Kawhi Leonard, who is putting up a career year.
Yeah, Kevin Durant was in the conversation.
Right, but his injury.
He's not going
somehow
to go
Stephen
anywhere.
Curry is in this talk, which
MVP race. Stephen Curry is definitely not going to
should be far away from that talk.
He's not even the best player on his team.
Absolutely, should be nowhere near that list.
It's pretty tragic, to be honest.
Gentlemen, thank you. He's Torrey Mark. You can find his work on the Carib Update newspaper in Grenada. And he's Gal Benkiki. They'll be back next week with us to take us into the home stretch of the NBA season. When we come back, if you love cricket, we'll have lots of it for you next.